Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityurma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness unto light. Lead us from death to immortality. Om, peace, peace, peace. You can see in this very prayer itself, the tattva, the upaya, and the phala are all given. What is the truth? What are we trying to achieve here? From the unreal to the real. Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya. Reality is Brahman, world is an appearance. How do we do it? So, Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya, go from the darkness of ignorance to the light of knowledge. We do it by knowledge, by this jnana which we get. And what is the result of all of this? What's the point of it? Mrityum Amritam Gamaya. Go from death to immortality, from limitation to freedom, from suffering to happiness, to peace. So this is, the whole of Vedanta is there actually, the crux of it. Om Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Now let us chant the third verse. Tatshetram yatjaya drikcha Tatshetram yatjaya drikcha Yadvikari yataschaya Yadvikari yataschaya Sachayo yat prabhavascha Sachayo yat prabhavascha Tatsamasena me shrinu Tatsamasena me shrinu. What the kshetra is, what its properties are, what its modifications are, what effects arise from what causes, and also who he is and what his powers are, hear from me in brief. So, here, Sri Krishna is, he has said, I will tell you about kshetra and kshetragya, field and knower of the field. Actually, what he is interested in is in the knower of the field. That's what we are supposed to know. But also to distinguish the knower of the field from the field, subject from the object, you also must know the field. So in brief, he says samasena. In brief, I will outline to you this objective world. So what is this world? What are its constituents and its powers and its properties? Let's just take a quick look. And we will take a quick look, only one verse. And then go back to the question of who is the self and how to attain enlightenment. Just the point here, Vedanta is not physics. It's not biology. When Vedanta talks about the universe, about the body, why does it at all talk about it? In order to help us to attain enlightenment. When physics talks about this universe, physics wants to understand this universe in reality. What is it? It's a study of the universe itself. The goal is to understand this objective universe. When chemistry studies it, goal is to understand the elements and their properties and their interactions and possibilities and powers. And when biology studies living beings, the whole goal is to study the living system, the organism, all sorts of life, to classify them, to understand it, and to use it, all the physics, chemistry, biology, for our developing technologies which can be useful for us in this objective world. So that is science. Sometimes there is confusion. We often say, oh, what Vedanta says now, what Vedanta has been saying all along, Vedas say it all, science is just discovering it. Maybe so in some ways, some parallels may be there, but one should not, as one professor of IIT, director of IIT long ago, 20 years ago. He said in a meeting, he said, don't trivialize Vedanta and science. So Vedanta is meant for self-knowledge, show us that we are with witness consciousness. To some extent, we need to understand this body-mind system and this world in order to distinguish ourselves from it and know who we are. That much only is necessary. Shankaracharya makes this point in Upanishad. Just briefly, I'll touch upon it. In Upanishad, there's something called Panchikarana, Trivitkarana. That means, I'm not going to it, how this external world is formed. You know, the old cosmology common to many ancient civilizations, 5 elements. Upanishad says, Akasha, Vayu, Vayu, Agni, Agni, Rapa, Prithvi. Akasha, sky, space. Vayu, air. Agni, fire. Apa or Jala, is water. And earth, Prithvi. And their combinations and so on. But in some Upanishads, so Taittiriya Upanishad gives us the name of the 5 elements. Chandogya Upanishad just talks about 3 elements. So is the world made out of combination of 5 elements? Panchikarana. Or combination of 3 elements? Trivitkarana. Shankaracharya makes a point in his commentary. He says, neither of these is the goal. These are just ways of describing the world so that you can point it back to the Atman. We are not interested in developing a theory of the external world. This is very important. Theory of the external world is the job of science. So more detailed understanding, if you want, of the external world, we must, in this day and age, we are very lucky. It's the age of science. So all the vast range of science is available for us. And I always recommend, you go to it's a scientific question, go to science. So when Krishna is going to talk about Kshetra, he's just using it to distinguish. He'll give an outline. This is the universe. You are the consciousness distinct from the universe. This is the field. You are the knower of the field. That much. Then he adds a verse in praise of this knowledge. Verse number 4. Please repeat. Rishibhir bahudha gitam. Rishibhir bahudha gitam. Chando bhir vividhai prithak. Chando bhir vividhai prithak. Brahmasutra padeshchaiva. Brahmasutra padeshchaiva. Hetu madbhir vinishchitai. Hetu madbhir vinishchitai. This truth, it has been sung by the rishis in many ways, in distinctive chants, in passages indicative of Brahman, full of reasoning and convincing. It's a verse in praise. In what Vedantic terminology is called, Vedic terminology is called Arthava, like praising this knowledge. This is a great knowledge, very ancient. I, Krishna, I'm not the one who's giving it. So this is the beauty of Sanatana Dharma, of Hinduism, of Vedanta. Krishna is not the source of this. Krishna is happily quoting from the Upanishads. Bhagavad Gita, number of verses are actually lifted directly from Upanishads. Krishna is the best embodiment and commentator on the philosophy of the Upanishads. He's not the originator. The originator is the Vedas. And that comes down from the rishis, who have got it from Ishvara. So it is handed down. The eternal truth which is revealed to the rishis. And that forms the foundation. So it's an impersonal truth. It does not depend upon any one founder, the theories of one teacher. No. Even Krishna, the avatar of Vishnu, is an incarnation of God. He is not the source. Rather, he is the representative, the teacher of that same tradition. Who is the source? Rishibhir Bahudha Gitam. In many ways in the Vedas you find it has been chanted, sung out, Gita, by the rishis. So many rishis. The Vedas are also not given by one person. They are rather discoveries of so many rishis. So rishi, mantra drashtara, the ones who saw the ultimate spiritual truths, they are called rishi. Rishaya mantra drashtara, seers of the mantras. And they have expressed it in chandas, in Vedic mantras. Bahudha, in so many ways. And vividai pritak. Some of those mantras are about karma kanda, about rituals to be performed. Nowadays, mostly we don't do that. Of course, in Hinduism, nothing ever dies completely. So in the Hindu temples, you will still find Vedic rituals. Some homas are performed. But mostly they have been superseded by puja, our puja of the devata. which is a post-Vedic phenomenon. So, but one part of the Vedas is concerned with karma, actual ritualistic action. Second part is concerned with upasana, meditation. So, not physical action outside, but internal worship of God, or internal worship, upasana, meditation. And the third part is concerned with jnana, knowledge, Upanishads, which we are studying now. Gita is the message of the Upanishads. The Tattvamasi you see, the Upanishadic message. So three parts. And all of the Vedic chandas, the hymns in the Vedas, the mantras, they concern this. Kanda Trayatmakam, made of three portions. Karma, Upasana, Jnana. And the rishis have given all of this. Brahmasutra Padeshchaiva, Hetu Madhvi Vinishchitai. Now this has two meanings. We are not sure exactly what is being referred to here, Krishna. Krishna might be referring to, as the translator says, in the Upanishads, you find the sutras, sutra bhuta vakya, that means sentences which are like aphorisms, formula, compressed, which are talking about the ultimate reality, Brahman. Tattvamasi, aham brahmasmi, prajnanam brahma, I am atma brahma, you are that Brahman, I am Brahman. Consciousness itself is Brahman. This very self is Brahman. Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. Brahman is in unlimited existence and awareness or consciousness. Infinite existence consciousness is Brahman. Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. Yato va imani bhutani jayante. From which all these beings appear, in which they exist, into which they disappear again. So these are compressed sentences, sutra, which are speaking about Brahman. And there is reasoning there, there is argumentation there, there is logic there, hetu mat, with reasoning. And very clear statements, very logical, very convincing. Or it might mean not the Upanishads. When you say Brahmasutra, it might actually mean Brahmasutra. Brahmasutra is another text. So Vedanta has three. It's like a tripod with three legs. Upanishad, Bhagavad Gita, Brahmasutra. That's why it's called Prasthanatraya. And the triple foundation of Vedanta. The set of texts called Upanishads, which are Vedic. And based on that, there is a philosophical text called Brahmasutra, which systematizes reasons upon the Vedic teachings. Badarayana Vyasa has composed it. It is Brahmasutra. And also the Bhagavad Gita. So Gita, though it is the teaching of Sri Krishna, is such a beautiful commentary, but beautiful summary of Upanishadic teachings, beautiful presentation, practical presentation of the teachings of the Upanishads. It's considered part of the foundational text of Vedanta. Of course, the three legs of the tripod are not quite correct. That's not the right example, because Brahmasutra and Gita are both based on Upanishads. They are not equal. Upanishads are known as Shruti Prasthana because they come from the Upanishad, from the Vedas, which is Shruti, literally that which was heard. That is foundational, most important, root. And then Brahmasutras are called Smriti Prasthana. Smriti means, Brahmasutras are called Nyaya Prasthana. Nyaya means logic. So there is a philosophical basis. If you say philosophical basis of Vedanta, Brahmasutra. Source of Vedanta, root of Vedanta, actual ultimate foundation of Vedanta, Upanishad. Practical teaching of Vedanta, summary of Vedanta, best teaching of Vedanta, Gita. So these three together. So what does Brahmasutra Krishna mean here? Both it can mean. It might mean the actual statements about Brahman in the Upanishads. Many commentators say that. Or it might actually mean that set of 555 sutras composed by Vyasa. If you want to study Vedanta, classical Vedanta, you have to study the Brahmasutras. At least when you become sannyasi, for example, you have to study Upanishad, you have to study Gita, and Brahmasutras, at least first 4 sutras. They would always say in Uttarakhand, Chatur Sutri padhe hain? Have you read the 4 sutras? So easy to read the 4 sutras, you have to read it with the commentaries and sub-commentaries, commentary of Shankaracharya now. So it gives a good overview of all of Vedanta. If you just read the first 4 sutras with the commentary of Shankaracharya. 4 sutras. And just by the way, if you are someone curious, what are the 4 sutras? It's good to hear it. First sutra. Athato Brahma Jigyasa. Hence, therefore, inquiry into Brahman. What is the meaning of hence? What is the meaning of therefore? Page after page of discussion is there. So it's all compressed like a zip file. Computer zip file you've got. But in order to use the zip file, you have to unzip it. Similarly, in order to use Athato Brahma Jigyasa, you have to unzip it. And that unzipping is done by Shankaracharya in the commentary. It gives you the detailed explanation of each word and the meaning of the whole sutra. Athato Brahma Jigyasa, first one. So, inquiry into Brahman. But what is Brahman? What is Brahman? Janmadhyasya yataha. Janmadhyasya yataha. The entire universe, from which the entire universe comes, in which the entire universe exists, and into which the entire universe disappears, that is Brahman. That is what you have to inquire into. But it's also a secondary definition of Brahman, not the essential definition. Anyway, Asya Jagata Janma Sthiti Bhanga Yasmat Tad Brahma. The whole universe from which it arises, in which it exists, and into which it disappears, that's called Brahman. Second sutra. Third sutra. How do you know this? How do you know? Shastra Yoritva, from the source called the Shastra, Upanishads. Upanishads tell us this, that there is a source called Brahman, from which this entire universe emerges. Then, but Upanishads have so many sentences. They are not only talking about Brahman as the source of the universe, so many things are there, stories are there, theories are there, Aham Brahmasmi there, so many things are there. So how do you know that the meaning of the Upanishads is Brahman, source of the universe? Fourth sutra. Tattu Samanvayat. By a harmonized interpretation of all the texts, we come that to the one pointed, the purport of all these texts is Brahman. That you are Brahman. Brahman is the point which is all these texts are talking about, and you are Brahman is the ultimate teaching, which all Upanishadic literature leads. So these are the four sutras. So this is very easy then. No. Every word has to be analyzed. That's called Brahmasutra. This is four. There are 555 sutras. Then, so now Krishna will tell us the, what do you call it? The Kshetra. Verses 5 and 6 we will read together. Two verses Krishna talks about field. Mahabhutanyahankaro buddhiravyaktamevacha indriyani dashaikamcha panchatendriyagochara ichchadvesha sukham dukkam Sanghatascetana dhriti etat kshetram samasena savikaram mudahritam the great elements, egoism, intellect, also the unmanifested Mula Prakriti, the 10 senses and the one mind, 5 objects of the senses, desire, hatred, pleasure, pain, the aggregate intelligence, fortitude. The Kshetra has been thus described with its modifications. So what is this field? At the root of this field, this objective universe, lies Maya. It is called Abhyakta, unmanifest. Then Maya itself manifests what? It manifests Brahman. It is like this. At the root of that false snake lies ignorance. Ignorance of what? Of the rope. I think it's a real snake. Mistake. It's really a rope. But why do I think it's a real snake? It's because of ignorance of the rope. So ignorance of the rope is the root. Maya is the root. Maya veils Brahman. Ignorance of your real nature as Brahman. That's the root. Then what does it do? It projects rope as snake. Shankaracharya says, Atasmin tad buddhi. What's not there, you see there. It projects Brahman as a real universe. The Maya does two things. Projects Brahman as the real universe. It projects the knower of the field as the field. What is the field? Not only this physical universe, it says the five elements, Mahabhuta, Pancha Mahabhuta, and Mahabhuta, he says, made out of that external universe is made out of that. But also Sanghata, body. And in that body, intellect, buddhi, Vijnanamaya Kosha, mind, ego, ahankara, and all the components of the mind, modifications of ichcha, dvesha, sukham, dukkham, desire, attraction, repulsion, all the activities of the mind. And then pleasure, pain. And then it says Chetana, consciousness. My God, isn't this problematic? Because I thought I was consciousness. Knower of the field is consciousness. Now they are throwing consciousness in the bucket as the field, in the field. Now this is the reflected consciousness. The awareness which we feel right now. Everybody feels consciousness. So then are we all enlightened? No. The consciousness which we are feeling is a reflected consciousness. In Vedanta it is called Chidabhasa. It's, you know what it's like. It's like looking at my face in the mirror and all I see is the mirror and the reflected face. And somebody tells me your real face is here, it's unseen. So the face I am seeing is not my real face. But it's a reflection. And it has some of the properties of my real face. Similarly, the reflected consciousness acts as consciousness. It makes us aware of things. So this Chetana, the sense organs, same consciousness coming through the intellect, mind, and through the eyes gives us a conscious experience of seeing forms. Coming through the intellect, mind, and through the ears gives us an experience of hearing sound. When we smell fragrances, taste flavors, and touch, soft and hard, warm and cold. So all of these are conscious experiences modified by the five senses and the five sense objects. Five sense objects, sight, smell, taste, touch. Also activities. We walk and talk, the five organs of action. These hands and feet and tongue, the organ of reproduction, organ of evacuation, all the pancha, the karma indriya, they are also modifications of same Mula Prakriti. Now the important thing to notice here before we go ahead is, normally without any Vedanta, we consider the world to be the object and body mind to be the subject. Notice what they have done here. They have put the world and body mind, senses, motor organs, sense organs, mind, physical body, even consciousness, all of that they have put it in the field, object, object, object. You are the witness consciousness of all of this. Krishna is done with this. He is not further interested in developing this. Now he goes back to, how do we realize that I am the witness consciousness, Chidananda Rupa Shiva, and I am one with God. I am the one consciousness in all bodies and minds. How do we realize it? So he will give 20 practices here. Remember, I had said earlier, Swami Vivekananda said Vedanta is the manifestation of the divinity already within us. And manifestation has these two sides. One is knowledge and one is the ethical dimension. Manifestation, it means knowing that you are Brahman. You know that you are Brahman. You know that you are Yatma. But also it should be reflected in your life. In the way I think and talk and behave, there should be some reflection of my knowledge. We, in one paper, it was discussed, it's a paper on Buddhism. What is Bodhi, enlightenment in Buddhism? It has two sides. One is knowledge. Their knowledge is of Shunyata. But also, it's also getting Buddha-like qualities in one's life. Non-violence, peaceful, self-controlled, karuna, compassion towards all. All this must come into our life. Then only I am enlightened. I can't just say, for example, I know I am Brahman, but why are you getting angry? Sometimes it's a problem because I have understood. I have understood Vedanta nicely. So I know I am Brahman. I'm quite clear about it. I can teach you also. Then why are you getting angry? Oh, anger. It can be easy to explain. Anger is in the mind. Didn't you read all the discussion went on? Anger is the dosha, like the cataract in the eye. Anger is the dosha in the mind. I am unaffected by it. That is not very inspiring. One sadhu said in Uttarakhand, "Rota hua gyani kisi ko pasand nahi." Jnani, an enlightened person who is whining, grumbling, complaining. Swami Ranganathan used to say, if you think you're enlightened, you're spiritual, first thing is you have lost the right to all grumbling. You can't grumble. I am enlightened, but I have so many complaints. Food is bad, bed is hard, room is cold. There's a funny story about a nun. So she entered a convent, and the rule in that convent was silence. You're not allowed to speak. It's a joke. And only at the end of 10 years, you can tell one word. So 10 years later, she was summoned by the head of that convent. Do you have anything to say? He said, food. All right. Then next 10 years passed. Anything to say? She's quite senior, not 20 years old. Bad. Food is bad. Then 10 years later, she said, bed. 40 years later, she said, hard. Hard. Then 50 years later, she said, room. 60 years later, she said, cold. By that time, she herself must be 80 plus years old. So express all the grumbling about her situation. You are not permitted to speak. No, you cannot do that. So it must be manifest into my day-to-day life. That's why Swami Vivekananda's definition of religion is so beautiful. It's the manifestation of the divinity already within us. Not just knowledge of the divinity, manifestation of the divinity. So how will we manifest that divinity? How will we even get the knowledge of that divinity? How will we manifest it? 20 practices. So Sri Krishna actually agrees with that. It's not that I am the Kshetrajna, Aham Brahmasmi, that is knowledge. No, Aham Brahmasmi plus these 20. These must be in our life. In order to actually realize Aham Brahmasmi and to manifest it in life, these must be present in our life. Somebody is asking, how do we know somebody is enlightened? So it's not a guaranteed thing, but one good sign is if these qualities are manifest in the life of such a person. That we can see. If the person has realized I am Brahman or not, nobody can see. But are these manifest in the life? Or is that person grumbling? Rota hua gyani. So, 20 practices. Let us chant them together from verse 7 onwards. Amanitvam adambhitvam ahimsa kshantirajyavam acharya upasanam shaucham स्थैर्यम् आत्मा विनिग्रह इन्द्रियार्थेषु वैराग्यम् अनहङ्कार एव च जन्म मृत्यु जरा व्याधि दुःख दोषानुदर्शनम् असक्तिरनभिष्वङ्ग पुत्रदार गृहादिषु नित्यं च समचित्तत्वम् इष्टानिष्टोपपत्तिषु मयि चानन्ययोगेन Bhaktirabhyabhicharini, Bhaktirabhyabhicharini, Viviktadesha sevitvam, Viviktadesha sevitvam, Aratir jana samsadi, Aratir jana samsadi, Adhyatma jnana nityatvam, Adhyatma jnana nityatvam, Tattva jnanartha darshanam, Tattva jnanartha darshanam, Etad jnanam iti proktam, Jnanam iti proktam, Ajnanam yadatonyatha, Ajnanam yadatonyatha. 20 practices have been mentioned here. They sound like qualities, but they are actually action words. We can do something about it. We all have these to some extent. We have to improve them. So these are 20 practices actually. And he says, Etat jnanam iti proktam. These are knowledge. Why are these knowledge? Because anena jnayate. By these knowledge is attained. With these present, knowledge realization becomes inevitable. Without these present, knowledge is not possible. So this is why this is sadhana. This is practice. Sadhana. Why at all sadhana is necessary? Because of this. See, what is the kshetra, the field? The field is directly observable. We can see it, hear it, smell, taste, touch. We can investigate it scientifically. We can explore it. Field is directly experiential. The knower of the field is not an object. It cannot be directly experienced. We can only use the field, that is the body mind, to realize that I am the knower of the field. And in order to prepare the body mind, especially the mind for realizing Aham Brahmasmi, I am the knower of the field, sadhana is necessary. So sadhana will not give you, first of all, they will not make you Kshetrajna, will not make you the knower of the field. It will not make you Brahman. You are already Brahman. Sadhana will not also directly reveal that you are Brahman. You cannot see yourself as Brahman through sadhana. No. Sadhana means spiritual practice, has an indirect effect. It will prepare the kshetra, the mind especially, for the arising of enlightenment. So, sadhana is an indirect. It will not directly show you. It cannot be. The witness consciousness cannot directly be seen. You are it. How can you objectify yourself? But you can recognize yourself, realize yourself as the Atman with the help of this sadhana. It is indirect, but very important. It cannot be dispensed with. You cannot have a relaxed attitude. So sadhana will not. I am Brahman anyway, so it doesn't matter if I do sadhana or not. Alright, it doesn't matter. You are Brahman and you will remain Brahman. It will be rota hua, suffering Brahman. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, Panchabhute Hade Brahma Padeka. In the network of 5 bhutas, Panchabhuta, material existence. Brahman falls into this net and cries, weeps. Panchabhuta Hade. Hada means net. Brahma, Girke, falls, Kade, grows, Rota. It cries, weeps. So that if you have to stop the suffering, then realization, Brahma Jnana is necessary. I must realize my true nature. And for that, mind has to be, the kshetra has to be prepared by sadhana. So let us see. That's why at the very end of the list, in the 11th verse, Sri Krishna says, Etad jnanam iti proktam, ajnanam yadatu anyatha. The opposite of these 20s, we will see. The opposite of these 20s is ignorance. These 20 are actually knowledge. You're seeing they're going to move from ignorance to knowledge. Tamaso ma jyotirgamaya. Move from ignorance to knowledge. This movement is here. This is the movement. The 20, opposite is ignorance. This one is knowledge. We'll see now. So let's start with 7th verse. Amanitvam, agambitvam, ahimsa, kshanti, rajavam. First he says, amanitvam. Non-egoism, humility. What is egotism? Egotism is what identifies. See, first of all, ego itself is not bad. Ego is a function of the mind, which says I. Right now we all feel I am sitting, I am talking, I am listening, I am a man, I am a woman, I am young, I am old, I am happy, I am interested, I am bored. Notice, man, woman, I is identified with the body. Happy, bored, identified with the mind. I am worldly, I don't believe in spirituality, identified with my tendencies, interests. I am very spiritual, I like Vedanta, identified with the interests of the mind. This identifying is done by the ego. Ego is a function of the mind. What is its function? Identification. In Vedanta Sara, definition of ego is given. Abhimanatmika antakarana vritti ahankara. Abhiman. Abhimana in Hindi, in Bengali it has a bad meaning. Abhimana means pride and ego. But technically Abhimana means the function of appropriating, of bringing together, of owning up. So talking is going on here. I don't say talking is happening. I say I am talking. What is this I? Function of the mind. What is this talking? Function of the motor organ. The whole vocal apparatus is talking. And the I, the function of the mind says I am talking. There are two different things. Talking going on here. I am talking. So this ego identifies with the body, mind and its activities. The contents of the mind, the body. Ego identifies. And we do not know, our problem is that we do not know that we are not the ego. What are we? What are we? We are the sakshi of the ego. We are the witness of the ego. We are that consciousness in which the mind generates an ego. Even enlightened persons have ego. This may sound surprising because all literature says enlightenment, God realization is going beyond the ego. Manonasha, destruction of the ego. The language has to be understood carefully. Even Sri Rama, Krishna, Vivekananda, Ramana Maharshi, all the other enlightened persons, they all, sometimes at least they say I. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, I will drink a glass of water. I. The ego is there, but the difference is they do not identify themselves with the ego. Body is part of the kshetra, mind is part of the kshetra, ego is part of the mind, so part of the kshetra. I am kshetra witness. That's why Shankaracharya says, Mano buddhya hankara chittani naham. Aham, the real I am not mana, buddhi, chitta, ahankara. How interesting. Ahankara na aham. If you translate it into English, it will be I am not I. But there are two different I. One is the witness consciousness, kshetrajna, the other one is ego. Ego is a function of the mind. I am not the ego. Now what the ego does is, all the nice constituents of the mind, ego identifies with that. Wealth, power, knowledge, health. So my family, my birth, my relatives, my achievements, my popularity, Facebook likes, my bank balance, my house, my car and gadgets, all of these which are associated with I and mind, with body and mind, ego appropriates to that and feels glorified by that. I am great. Why are you great? Because I have a lot of money. I am great. Why are you great? Because I have PhD. I am great. Why are you great? Because I am young and beautiful and healthy. I am great because I have many Facebook likes. All of this ego. And why does this ego want to be great? Because actually, you are great. Our unlimited greatness, unfortunately, we're trying to manifest through this limited body mind. And the ego is trying to do that by catching hold of what it finds. When it finds the real greatness, Chidananda Rupa Shivoham, then the ego is fine, it's satisfied. But until we find that, we try to express through this limited body mind. This is called mana. In many Indian languages, we have this word mani. Mani means proud of something. Proud of what? Of certain circumstances in the world, things in the world, my possessions, my achievements. Now, something to be careful here. Proud confident, self-esteem is not bad. In the beginning of life, for everybody, it is necessary to get an integrated personality. Amanitvam does not mean being weak and lacking self-confidence and being shaky, nervous. I am nobody, I am useless. That's not Amanitvam. First of all, an integrated personality is necessary. That's why these are advanced practices. One thing you will notice that in all the Vedanta, that there are stories, Nachiketa, Shvetaketu, in Mundakopanishad there is Shaunaka. All of them are confident. Some are confident to the point of being brash and arrogant. None of them is a weak and helpless, shaky kind of person. Nachiketa says, why Swami Vivekananda loved Kathopanishad. Little boy Nachiketa had self-confidence. He says, in many things, I am the first. What kind of self-confidence? Worldly kind of self-confidence. Positive psychology kind of self-confidence. In many ways, I am the first. In many cases, I am in the middle, average. Nowhere I am the last. That kind of self-confidence, self-esteem. Swami Vivekananda, he said, the old religion said, he is an atheist who does not believe in God. The religion of today says, he is an atheist who does not believe in himself. So all religion, first of all, starts, any kind of religion. Why religion? Therapy. Counseling. It starts with a confidence in oneself. Unless the person is willing to change for the better, admits that something better is possible than this terrible state of affairs, no treatment can help psychologically. The person is totally lost hope. One sadhu in Uttarakhand, he said he had come from a village in Uttar Pradesh. So he said that in our village, farmers know when the calf is newborn, some are sick. Will that calf survive or not? If it is struggling to stand up, you help it, it will stand up. If it's not struggling at all, no matter how much you try to lift, it will fall down and it will bound to die. So farmers know this. Which calf is to be helped and which is not to be helped. That struggling to stand up is self-confidence. In the Bhagavad Gita, the first thing Krishna tells Arjuna, he does not say Amanitvam, Adam Vitvam, it's only in 13th chapter. In 2nd chapter, when Krishna first speaks, first off he says, Klaivyam Masma Gama Partha. Don't be paralyzed into inactivity. Shudram Hridaya Daurvalyam Tyaktva Uttishta Parantapa. You're a great warrior. Give up this meanness, this smallness, this shakiness. Get up and fight this battle. So, when we're going to talk about Amanitvam, one has to be careful here. For whom is Amanitvam meant? Already for the person who has an integrated personality, has got his act together. In Mundakopanishad, it starts with Shaunako Havai Mahashalo Angirasam Vidivalupasanna Papracha. Mundakopanishad. Shaunaka, the student goes to the teacher Angiras. Who is the student? It's described as Mahashala. Mahashala means who has huge yagyashalas, which means he is a very rich person, very competent person, very successful man of the world. Then he has a question about spiritual life. And even more so, Shvetaketu, Tattvamasi, his father told him, Shvetaketu, he was arrogant. He comes back from school and he thinks his father knows nothing. Old fellow, what does he know? I know latest knowledge. Ivy League. Then his father knows, immediately sees his arrogance and says, have your teachers taught you that one? That knowledge by which everything is known? By which everything is known. And Shvetaketu says, no, that knowledge I don't have. And then the teaching starts about Brahman. But see, every case, they are confident people. So, Amanitvam is a teaching meant for people who are already confident, strong in life. That is necessary, the beginning. In spiritual life also, confidence is necessary. Sri Ramakrishna says, who is a human being? He plays on the Bengali word, Manush. Manush means human being. He plays on the Bengali word, Man Hush. Man means same, Mani. He says, one who is aware of the spiritual dignity. I am Brahman. I am the child of God. Which some way, If you are a devotee, you will say, the Lord is my master, I am the servant. Like Hanuman is the servant of Ramachandra, I am the servant of the Lord. Or the Lord is my mother, like Sri Ramakrishna Manmakadu. I am the child of God. This is called Manhush. So when you say Amanitvam, you can see it seems a contradiction. If you are settled in your spiritual dignity, good, you will progress in spiritual life. Only thing that is, what would you say in medicine, contraindicated here, is this using the ego to glorify in worldly things. What's wrong in that? Suppose I glorify, I am very proud, I know, you don't know. I have so much money, you don't have money. It's a problem. Why is it a problem? See, it's this. It ties you to the parichinna, to the limited. What you are trying to be to realize your unlimited nature. See, the very word, now follow carefully. Mana. Mana. Mana means measure. Mana means measure. In Hindi also, man, measure. In Sanskrit also, mana means measure. Measure means limited, parichinna. Only the limited can be measurable. Mani means somebody who has identified oneself with something limited. With wealth, with knowledge, with power, with possessions, with Facebook friends. It's limited, always limited. More or less. And I've identified with more, so I feel glorified. But that's always limited, always limited. So, amanitvam. Don't be, if you want to realize your unlimited nature, don't glorify in the limited. The ego glorifies in the limited. And now we are going deeper into the philosophical aspect. Why amanitvam is so closely connected with Advaita? Humility and Advaita. One professor of Christian theology once asked me, Advaita, Aham Brahmasmi, it will make you very proud, egotistic. No. That Aham Brahmasmi, that Aham is not the ego. That Aham, Kshetragyam Chapi Mam Vidhi Sarva Kshetreshu Bharata. If I say I am Brahman, I mean all of you are Brahman. We are all that one indivisible existence consciousness place. And no way can I claim any glory for myself. Even Brahmagyana glory I cannot claim. Say, Swami, at least you are Brahmagyani, we are all ignorant people, you are great. That much greatness you can claim for yourself. I am Brahmagyani. No. I love that. Nisargadatta Madhyan, that book is there. I am that. So somewhere he is asked, not in that book, somewhere else I read. He was asked, he was told, Maharaj, you are great, you are a Brahmagyani. He used to be quite rough. I met one gentleman, Radhakrishnan, he lives in Los Angeles. He met Nisargadatta Maharaj. I asked him, what is your memory of that? He was quite rough, he scolded me. So, you are a Brahmagyani. And he scolded me. No, I am not a Brahmagyani. You are insulting me. Insulting you is the greatest praise we can give you in our civilization. You are enlightened, Brahmagyani. No, I am not a Brahmagyani. I am Brahman. There's a difference between Brahmagyani and Brahman. Brahmagyani is also the ego taking the I am enlightened, therefore I am great. So Brahmagyani, no, I am Brahman. Brahmeva, natu Brahmagyani. Yes. I am not a Brahmagyani. That much also identification with the mind should not be there. The ego is an object. I am not the ego. That very nice experiment. You can do that actually. You can clearly see what we normally think we are, the ego. It's still an object and you are aware of it. How does it work? This experiment was suggested by Greg Good, who's a psychologist who lives in New York, but he is influenced by Vedanta. He uses a lot of Vedanta in his counseling. So he says, Do this experiment. You can do it right now. If you sit straight and a little relaxed, we shall try to find out who am I. So this experiment. I feel I, and the question is, where are you feeling the I? Are you feeling it, above your waist or below your waist? You draw a line parallel to the ground through your waist mentally. So I try to locate it. If I'm forced to ask you, where is this I? Is it below your waist or above your waist? Most of us will always say, all of us will say it is above the waist. So I feel here somewhere. Hardly anybody will say, I feel my ego in my ankle. No. All right, somewhere here. But here also, draw a line through the chest like this, parallel to the ground. I, is it below in the tummy or is it above this line? And most of us, we will see, if you notice, actually feel it somewhere above. We are more comfortable. Now draw a line through the neck. Mentally, you draw a line parallel to the ground. Above the neck, I or below the neck. Some might feel below the neck, I am here in the chest. But some might feel, suppose we say it's above the neck. Many people feel I am somewhere here. It's very natural because the face, the head has so many sense organs. Ears, nose, tongue, eyes, our skin is also very sensitive, so many nerve endings. So naturally our presence is more felt here. So it's very natural that we feel I here. If you are forced to say I in the head. Alright, now do an even more delicate operation. Mentally draw vertical lines now. One line like this, one line like this. 3 parts. Head, here, here. Now where is the I? Here, here or here? Most of us will feel somewhere in between. Some of us feel that it is somewhere between my eyes or just behind my eyes. Like a more or less like a location behind my eyes. Good. Wherever you feel it. Now here is the crucial question. You feel the location of I somewhere behind the eyes. But who is it that feels that? That I, location of the I is appearing to you. Who are you? Whether it's Atman consciousness or not, let's not worry about that now. We can only, this much is very clear that I is an object. The I, which is appearing to me, is an object because you are aware of it. It is appearing to you, isn't it? Subtle point, but important point. Ego is not you. Just as this hand appears to you, just as the breath appears to you, just as the thought appears to you, even the I is appearing to you. It's a function of the mind. And it grasps on to things in the world, mani. And it makes itself limited. I am rich, famous, learned, young, beautiful, popular. You have to distance yourself from this mani. Another deep philosophical point. You know what is the definition of reality? We are having this conversation with David Chalmers. He has given 5 definitions of reality drawn from philosophy all over the world. What are the definitions? How do you define what is real? 5 definitions he has given. One of those definitions is it is measurable. Reality is that which is measurable. Correct, scientific definition. I told him you would be surprised and amused to know in Advaita Vedanta the definition of unreality is measurability. In Advaita Vedanta, mani means parichinna, measurable. Meya means measurable. It's a definition of maya. Anything within maya is measurable, which means it's limited. It's an object. The immeasurable is the subject, is the consciousness. And according to Vedanta, that one is real. This is an appearance. So if you say measurability, that's an indication of falsity in Advaita Vedanta. Jagat mithya, kasmat, world is false. Why? Meyatva. Because it is measurable. One of the names of Brahman is Ameya, immeasurable. He laughed, he was amused to hear that. Just by the way, what are the definitions of reality? He has given a number of definitions. One is measurable. One is externality. It exists by itself. One definition is the Advaita definition. He says non-illusoriness is real. What is the Advaita definition of reality? One other definition of reality he says is causal efficacy, that it works, it functions, it's real. So water in a mirage is false, water in the bottle is real. Why? I drink that water, it quenches my thirst, so it is real. I try to drink the mirage water, I can't drink it, so it's not real. This works, that does not work. Causality, that shows reality. This is the Buddhist definition. I don't know if he knows this, but more than 2000 years ago, in India, the Buddhist schools used Artha Kriya Karitva. Measurably, the causal efficacy, practical, that it works, that's why it's real. What's wrong with this definition? Advaita Vedanta will say, so water is real because it quenches your thirst? Yes. If it does not quench your thirst, then it is false? Yes. Okay, drink that water. Drink that water. It's real? Yes. Next moment you wake up from a dream and you realize that water you were drinking in the dream, it was in the dream. You say, now will you say you have drunk real water? No. So something may work. In a movie, things work. What do you mean? When the cop is chasing a robber in a car, doesn't the car work? Does the cop say, oh, it's a movie car, it will not work. The robber will run away, can't do anything. No. In the movie, it will work. Certainly, everything works. But does not mean it's real. So working does not mean, practical efficacy does not mean it's real. May not be. External, what seems to be external may not be real. When you wake up, you see the whole thing is internal. From a dream, if you wake up. Measurability is not a function of reality. These are three definitions of reality which are used in philosophy. All of them are rejected by Advaita Vedanta. But one definition is accepted by Advaita Vedanta. What Professor Chalmers calls, in that book, he calls it non-illusoriness. The definition. So Buddhists will ask Advaita Vedanta, okay, smart guy, wise guy. You say, okay, wise guy, what is your definition of reality? Give me your definition of reality. Abhaditatvam. That which cannot be badhita. Badhita means negated. What is negation? Oh, it was not a snake. It's a rope. Negated. Snake is false. Oh, it was all a dream. I have woken up now. Negated. Dream object. That which cannot be negated is real. That which cannot be negated is real. For which there is no possibility of negation. Okay, that sounds good. But tell me, what is that thing which can never be negated? For which you can never wake up from a dream or come out from a virtual reality or just wake up and say that, become enlightened and say, oh, it was false. What is the one thing which you cannot be negated? What is the one thing that you need for negation? To negate anything, what do you need? Your own self-consciousness. In your consciousness only it has to be negated. This is real, this is not real. To whom? To me, the consciousness. Can consciousness be negated? Can you ever have the experience of, oh, consciousness was false, now I have woken up from it. Woken up into what? Consciousness only will testify to that. Shankaracharya says, Yaes asya nirakarta tasyeva atmasa. Whoever negates the Atma, it's the Atma of the very one. Consciousness cannot be negated. Consciousness cannot be illusory. Think about it. If you can understand how consciousness cannot be negated, how consciousness cannot be illusory, you have come very close to enlightenment. Because you are consciousness. Or put it in another way, existence, Sat. Can it be negated? Existence itself. Oh, there is no such thing as existence. It's all non-existence. Who is saying this? You still need existence to say it. So existence cannot be negated. Existence cannot be illusory. Existing things can be illusory. But existence itself cannot be illusory. Consciousness cannot be illusory. So that is the definition of reality. Anyway, amanitvam. Amanitvam means that do not attach yourself to the measurable, to the limited. whatever in this world. I give some examples. I'll stop here. We'll take questions again in the second session because we have run out of time again. We can take one or two questions, maybe a couple of questions. I always give this, we'll take just a couple of questions. I always give this example. There are three interesting places I stayed in last 3-4 years. One is Hollywood, one is Manhattan, Wall Street. I didn't stay in Wall Street, but in Manhattan. One was in Harvard University. And who were happy there, successful there. In Hollywood, it's your closeness to the movie industry. How many stars, which movie you're associated with. In Wall Street, how rich you are. Not how famous, but how rich you are. At Harvard University, how learned you are. Are you the head of the department? Are your books? Have you got a maximum number of citations? Have you got a Nobel Prize? Now I found that truly happy and peaceful is not the person who's very famous or very rich or very learned. These things may be there or may not be there. In some way, the person is spiritual. Knowledge, devotion, Vedanta, Buddhism, Christianity, whichever way, some deep, genuine spirituality is there, then that person has peace, at least some amount of peace. Manitvam, my fame, my bank balance, my academic citations, that never leads to peace, never leads to joy. So, amanitvam.
Yes, sir.
Tell us your name and ask the question.
Yes, it's Anvesh, and the question is around, so the practical applications of Vedanta. So as I was saying yesterday, I'm a mental health professional psychiatrist. So what I've observed in my own practice is when you get to the observer level, which is the reflective consciousness, if you do some deep meditation, what I'm fooling myself to be reflective conscious, I'm not sure. But there is a certain state which you get, and then when you observe something in that state, let's say it's a bad habit or like something that you don't like, then there is some power where you can actually understand that this is wrong, and then that's the way to change that habit rather than doing a practice or upasana. Right? So I wonder if there is any power in that, getting into that state and then observing something. And when you observe that, then you know the truth of this is not right, or this I should change my behavior. What is the process or mechanism behind that? Is that a real thing or not?
Yes. I totally agree with you. Can this capacity to distance myself from what's happening in the mind or in my life, can it help me in therapy and in change? Definitely it can help. Even in mental health issues, can it help? It can definitely help. By putting these issues in the field, Kshetra, and I am the Kshetrajna, not touched by this. Even in the middle of a storm, the sky is perfectly all right. It was a deep blue sky, clear earlier. Now there are storm clouds. Very soon the storm clouds will go away. The sky remains completely unaffected. I am like that sky. This can give you a certain psychological space in which to maneuver and to make changes. Now, we have to develop protocols for this. It has not been used yet in that way. You can. I suggest this to mental health professionals that take this insight. In mental health, as far as I know, there are these very good movements now towards talk therapy, away from giving pills. The pills are there, but one psychiatrist I know in Calcutta, he said, from patienthood to personhood to excellence. So from patienthood to personhood, medicine and therapy both will help. But from personhood to excellence, therapy only will help. You don't need medicines there. So here, this is one thing which can help, which is a little distance from me and my problems. One sadhu put it very nicely. Somebody came and said, I have this problem, that problem. Sadhu shouted at that person, I'm not interested in your problems. How cruel. I'm not interested in your problems. I'm interested in you. Which means you and your problems are not the same thing. Problems, Kshetra. You, Kshetrajna. Once, and I had an interesting experience in Calcutta. The psychiatrists in Bengal, they get together once or in 1 month or 2 months, in 2 months. They have like a private meeting. Many people don't know. They meet in a hotel, just the psychiatrist. And they discuss the issues among themselves. And they also invite sometimes a guest speaker from outside their field. Twice they invited me. I thought maybe that's a good case study or something for me. But some of the sharpest questions I have faced, because these are people who are dealing with the mind at its most volatile and most troublesome. So all through that, every day they're dealing with these problems. So their understanding becomes quite sharp. So this is what I always say, that we must develop protocols for this. It's not been done yet. For Vipassana, for mindfulness, protocols are already being developed. Even something like this is very popular, CBT, this cognitive behavior therapy, that itself requires some amount of distance between myself and the client has to put some distance between himself or herself and his or her problems. That's all I can say. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Vikram. Is it correct to say that this question of doubt, what am I, is intrinsic property of an individual, physical, and sukshma? And the second part is, if this can be addressed by understanding, then when the body sublimes, will the question becomes irrelevant?
If I understand it correctly, doubt is part of the field, not part of the knower. Not an intrinsic property of the knower. It's a property of the field, kshetra, property of the mind. Where is doubt? In the mind. Where is certainty? In the mind. It's like, you might say that, but we are speaking about Atma, which is beyond the mind. So doubt and certainty in the mind, how can it help? It can help. The mirror, which is reflecting your face, it can be dirty, it can be clean. Dirty mirror, poor reflection. Clean mirror, perfect reflection. And that reflection is not the real face, but it's a reflection of the real face. That's all you need to know what your real face is like. Similarly, in Brahma Jnana, you need certain knowledge. Knowledge is always asandigdha, that means certain, without any doubt. Doubt is there in the mind, that is cleared up through mananam. Mananam means this process of question, answer, investigation. When the body goes away, the problem is solved. Not solved, because the body will come back again. Another body. It will come back again. This body itself goes away in deep sleep, comes back again. From your perspective, when you go into deep sleep, body is gone, world is gone, body is gone, problems are also gone. Is it a solution? No. It will come back again. And in death, when the body actually is destroyed, so is it solved finally? No. It remains in the seed form, another body will come. With our entire problem, we will go into a new life.
How to address
Paralysis by analysis. Yeah. I have seen a monk literally paralyzed, physically paralyzed.
No,
2 legs paralyzed, one. Huh?
I don't mean physical paralysis.
Yeah.
Where I said,
Psychological paralysis.
this is it. I mean, you don't give up, but I have to let go. Then what?
I'm not sure I understand the question exactly. But-
Sharanagati.
Huh?
Like when I
Yes.
accept Sharanagati. when
Correct.
I-
Sharanagati. Now I understand what you're trying to say. Right. When clarity comes, as far as the world is concerned and this body is concerned and my life is concerned, Ishvara is in charge. So one can practice. For an enlightened person, it becomes automatic. Sharanagati for this entire world. Let me do my best. I am Brahman anyway. I gain nothing, lose nothing in this world. But as long as this is appearing to me, Ishvara has put me in this position, let me do my best. And the results I leave to the Lord. So Sharanagati is a great sign of greatest wisdom. Jnana. People think Sharanagati means bhakti. Sharanagati is jnana also.
My name is Anuradha, and my question is, you talked about reflected consciousness as Chidabhasa. is this Chidabhasa the Jiva? And so can you consider Jiva as also the Kshetra? And so does
Right.
the Jiva use this mind to realize that it's
Now see, when you say Chidabhasa, Jiva, Kshetra, one easy mistake to make is to think that, oh, so I am reflected consciousness in the mind and body. This is who I am. There is one Brahman. No, no, no. Remember always, Jiva Brahmaiva Napara. Who is Jiva? Not Chidabhasa. Jiva is Brahman. You are Brahman. So what is the Jiva? What is the difference between Jiva and Brahman? The difference is this, that Satchidananda Brahman, the infinite existence consciousness bliss, limited by the mind, with the presence of one mind, it gets reflected in the mind, then identifies with the body. That's the Jiva. Brahman, reflected in the mind as Chidabhasa, with the mind, is the Jiva. It's like looking in the mirror, and then I forget my real nature as this face, and I think of myself as this mirror and the reflected face. That much is the Jiva. So what's Jiva? Mirror, reflected face, but plus real face. You cannot say the real face is not there, then the reflected face also won't be there. You cannot say Jiva is not, Brahman is not there, then the Jiva also won't be there. The moment you say Jiva, Brahman is also included. So you are really Brahman, forgetting yourself, looking at your reflection as the reflected consciousness in the mind and thinking, I am that. You ask the question, who is Jiva? Jiva is Brahman. Plus the equipment of mind and reflected consciousness. Why body is not always included? Because body keeps changing from lifetime to lifetime. Good. So we will take up this again in the next session. Let's meet. It's 1 o'clock now. Again, we are late by half an hour. So let's meet at, instead of 2:15? We're cutting down your lunchtime by 15 minutes. So instead of 1.5 hours lunchtime, we'll have 1 hour 15 minutes lunchtime. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu.
Just one announcement to make. Starting September 2nd, we have another retreat with Swami Shankaracharya. And yes, as Maharaj said, this retreat will resume at 2:15. Also, lunch is served.